to some people, Christmas can be confusing. So the question is, what does Santa Claus, stockings, and Christmas trees have anything to do with Christ Mass, Christmas? Another point is, how did Christmas come about, and is Christmas part of a pagan holiday, and should Christians celebrate Christmas? That we're going to talk about in tonight's Bible study right after this. Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your boy Phil Craig once again, and thank you for joining me tonight, Friday Night Live Bible Study. All right, so we're in the studio here, and I just wanted to talk about something special, especially during this time, and something kind of controversial, right, in many cases. And I don't know if any of you guys have come across this or have dealt with it, but as far as I've dealt with it many a times around this time of the season, where people would question and even comment to say, why does Christians celebrate Christmas on a pagan holiday? And anybody can say what they want to say, but I'm just strictly about the facts, right? A lot of people say things because of hearsay and not knowing what the facts are. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the facts, right? We're going to get into it. I'm going to talk to you about how a lot of things came together for Christmas. So for everyone here today that's watching, if you see it here or before Monday, which is Christmas here in 2023, is only with Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and then we got Monday. So we got 2 days and a couple of hours, right, before Christmas. And so I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I am a Christian, and I say Christmas. And for those of you that celebrate Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and any other holiday, I wish you all the best and happy, healthy holiday. But to my Christians out there, my believers, Merry Christmas. So let's talk about Christmas, right? What does Santa, Christmas trees, and socks or stockings, what does that have to do with the actual day that we believe or which we celebrate Jesus coming into this world, right? So what does that have to do with anything? So let me start out. This tonight is going to be in two sections. First section, I'm going to talk to you about why did some of these things come into play on Christmas, and how did Christmas evolve where people think that it's from a pagan holiday? We're going to talk about that. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you the information. So lock in with me right now. Focus on what I'm saying. If you got to replay this, we're going to replay this. I have my notes in front of me. I wanted to make sure that I did not leave anything out, because so many people have so many questions that revolves around Christmas. So let's start with this right here. Let's start with some of the things. How did some of these things come about for Christmas? How did the Christmas tree come about? How did Santa come about? How did these stockings come about? So let's start with this. First of all, it was said that the tradition of decorating evergreen trees during the winter months predates Christianity. So that means before Christians became Christians and wanted to have Christmas, the decorating of trees was way before that. Now, back in Germany, it started back in Germany where they would decorate these trees. And one, for example, is a story told that one in particular, big oak tree, they decorated and they named it Thor. It was they kind of dedicated it as a god. And so people start decorating their houses with trees. Now, there was a Christian that came along. I don't remember the Christians. What was this guy's name? His name was Boniface. That's what was his name. His name was Boniface. And he was a diehard Christian that came along, asked them about the tree and what the Germans thought about the tree, and they revered it as a god called Thor. Now, Boniface took an axe. He took an axe and he chopped the tree down. And when they saw that the tree fell down, they totally began to talk to Boniface about this guy named Jesus. This was years later. So Boniface decorated a little evergreen tree, it is said. And from that point on, people started taking those trees and they started bringing them in their house as a dedication to this Christianity movement called Jesus. Now, that's what that was said. How true is it? I don't know. You know, everybody has different stories. But I did do some other research, and it said that in ancient times, various cultures, including the Roman and Celts, decorated trees as a symbol of life and rebirth during the winter solstice. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys about this solstice thing, right? And the use of evergreen trees in Christian celebrations became more prominent in Germany. I talked to you about Germany in the 16th century. Now, what it says that some credit Martin Luther with introducing the tradition of adding lights to the tree. Martin Luther was a diehard Christian, very wise man. Truly, he was a true follower of Christ, and it was Martin Luther, this Martin Luther that we're talking about, the scholar Martin Luther, was the Martin Luther that Martin Luther King Jr.'s dad changed their name to because of this man. That's how when Martin Luther King Jr.'s dad learned about Martin Luther, he changed his name and his son's name. He changed Dr. Martin Luther King's Jr.'s name when he was 4 years old. So that's just how influenced his works were with that family. And so they said that Martin Luther, introducing the tradition of adding lights to the tree, symbolizes the stars in the night sky. Now, it also says that in the 19th century, Prince Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria of England, popularized the Christmas tree tradition in the English-speaking world. An illustration of the royal family around a Christmas tree was published in the Illustrated London News in 1848, contributing to the widespread adoption of this practice. Now, that was the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree has nothing to do with Jesus. It has nothing to do with the birth of Christ, right? So I'm splitting this. I'm showing you what the Santa and the Christmas as we know it today and the Christmas, how this they are really two separate holidays that was combined to one day. And so the Christmas tree, I just gave you that information. Now, I want to go to Santa Claus, because Santa Claus seems to be now the center of Christmas. And how did this even come about? So, Christmas, let me give you the Santa Claus version, and then I'm going to talk about Christmas. So, Saint Nicholas, right, is basically who Santa Claus is, right? This they got the name Santa Claus from Saint Nicholas, and I guess that through its time it evolved to where it's at now. But here it is. So Santa is Saint Nicholas. So around 300 A.D., and we're going to the Roman Empire context because that's when this all took place. That's also the same context of Jesus Christ when he was born during the Roman Empire rule. And so around 300 AD, Saint Nicholas was a leader in the church around 250 years after Jesus was born. Parents left him with a ton of money. So Saint Nicholas was very well off, right? And he spent all of his life savings, all of his life giving away the money that he was left by his parents to the poor. The story goes that he would find out who was poor and needy, and then he would travel through the night and he would throw small bags of coins into the windows of the poor people. Now, what was said at that time, because people would wash their socks and they would hang it up over the fireplace so that their socks, or stockings you call it, they would dry. While St. Nicholas was throwing coins in poor people and needy windows, the coins, it was told that the coins fell inside of the stockings over the fireplace. And therefore, news travels, and over time it went around that St. Nicholas was going around at nighttime and he would put gold coins inside of stockings. Now, this is what happened. When all of this took place and they saw how much St. Nicholas was doing all of this, they gave St. Nicholas his own day. It's called St. Nicholas Day. It was December the 6th. So St. Nick's Day comes to America by the German and Dutch settlers when they came, where Germany called St. Nick St. Nicholas, and Dutch called him Santa Claus. St. Nicholas, Santa Claus. St. Nicholas, Santa Claus. Those two came and it combined. And when over time, as it kind of transformed into a, being brought down from one generation to another, it went from those two versions to one version called Santa Claus. So Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus, Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus is very, it's really parallel to each other. It sounds very much alike. It became Santa Claus, and over time those names blended to what we know as it right now. So Christmas in America was pretty confusing when you look at it, right? Is because actually a combination of two different church holidays from Europe became Christmas. You have Christmas on December 25th and St. Nicholas Day on December 6th, who celebrated basically a great giver, right? Jesus, God was the great giver by giving us Jesus, who's the greatest gift for us, came to die for our sins so that we become free in sin and that we can have everlasting life. Saint Nicholas was praised as being a great giver, helping out the poor, and so therefore these Christians, and he was a bishop in the church, and so over time December 25th was kept, and the tradition of Saint Nick giving was blended with the birth of Christ, since he was also a gift that God gave to the world. So this is how we got the day that the Christians celebrate as the day that we designated December 25th as Christ's birthday. Now, most people do understand, and I'll say most Christians as well, do understand that we don't believe that he was born on December 25th. It just so happened that that was, around the time they believe he was born, after doing calculations, according to some scholars. But then they're not really sure of the day. So they picked December 25th. Now, was December 25th picked because they was worshiping, they took it from a satanic God worshiping day? Or was it picked because it was Christians on a mission to overcome the satanic festivals that was given around that time? So I'm glad you asked that question. Now let's dig into it. This is where it gets interesting. Back in the days, well, you know what? Let me go back a little more. Let's talk about Hanukkah a little bit. Most people know that Hanukkah is celebrated by the Jewish tradition. Now, Hanukkah has been celebrated 200 years before Jesus was even born. So Hanukkah was being celebrated, the festival of Hanukkah was being celebrated even before Christianity came about, right? It was a Jewish holiday that would take place in Jerusalem, and it started between the Old and the New Testaments. Israel now was controlled by the Seleucid Empire, the Roman Seleucid Empire, and things got really bad for the Jewish people at one point in time. When Antiochus the fourth, Epiphanes, became king. Now, Antiochus didn't like Jews. Matter of fact, he hated them. If he had it, he would try, he really did try to annihilate the Jewish religion. He did everything he can. And so he banned their religion, right? He made it a law and banned their religion. And then he put a statue of Zeus, one of the pagan gods, in the temple, and told the Jews that they are to pray to that god or they would die. Now, in the book of Maccabees, so some of y'all may be asking me, well, what is the book of Maccabees? It's not, there's nowhere in the Bible. It is a book that is in the Roman Catholic, Bible called the Apocrypha. Now, in the Apocrypha, there's a number of books. They're Jewish tradition and Jewish history books that has been included in the Roman Catholic Bible. In most Christian Bibles, they don't have it. So in one of those books, in that Apocrypha, is a book called Maccabees. Now, the Maccabees was 5 brothers that did not go for the mess that Antiochus the Fourth had put on the Jewish people, or the Jewish belief. And so what they did, they revolted. They got themselves up a nice little army, and they fought against the Seleucids, and they overpowered them. Now, they rededicated, so they used the Hanukkah, so they used 8 days to clean up, to break down the Zeus statue, clean up, and through those 8 days, they now created this festival called Hanukkah. That's why you see 8 candles, right? And in John 10:22, now let me tell you something. Now was the feast of dedication in John 10:22. That is mentioned in the Bible. So we know that there's some validity to it, right? We know that that this is mentioned in the Bible, the Hanukkah, the feast of dedication. That's what became Hanukkah. It was the feast of dedication. Now we're celebrating Christ. The celebration of Christ now would begin 300 years down the line, right? And this now happened. Well, I guess the question is, well, what does that have to do with the pagan dates? Now, I'm glad you asked. Let's get to that. So, let's go all the way back again to the Roman festivals. Some scholars point out to the existence of various Roman festivals around the winter solstice, including Saturnalia and the celebration of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. So that was the Sol Invictus was the sun god. Saturnalia is the worshiping of Saturn. Saturnalia was a festival dedicated to the Roman sun god Saturn and involved feasting, gift giving, and a temporary overturning of social norms. It typically took place, now get this, because this is where it all began. It took place in the mid to late December. See, so a lot of people, I've been asked, well, I don't understand, you're a pastor, and how is it that you teaching about a satanic festival and you're calling it the day that Christ was born? Well, I'm not teaching anything satanic. Let's be clear on that. And let's be clear on your understanding on how history is. A lot of people are just talking stuff about what they hear, not knowing what the history is. And so Sol Invictus, like I said, was a sun god, and it was worshipped in the Roman Empire. And his festival was celebrated on December 25th. See, this is where they got this part from. And they're right. There was a pagan god, the sun god that the Romans worship. Their festival was on December 25th. Now, this date marked the rebirth of the sun, as it is around the time of the winter solstice when days begin to lengthen. Okay, that's fine. Now, in the early centuries of the Christian era, and I want y'all to get this, Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire, and the process of converting the population, right? Let's get this right here. So if anybody ever say, well, Christmas is nothing but a pagan festival, it is not a pagan festival. Understand that Christianity wasn't converting to become a pagan festival. What they was doing, they was converting those that once believed in giving their lives and their worship to the sun god. They're now converting them to Christianity. So what do? You don't combat evil by not getting part of it, right? The word tells us, become all things to all men and women, so that you may win them. How are you, there's still pastors and people who believe that folk missionaries and evangelists and pastors who are on social media, that they've been conformed to the world. No. Those are stomping grounds for the enemy. So therefore, if you are ministering on Facebook, ministering on TikTok, ministering on Snapchat, ministering on Instagram, ministering on Twitter, whatever you're ministering on, where things are going crazy, then that is not you being converted or being influenced by the enemy. That's you doing the conversion. You're battling against as a mission, right? And this is what we have to understand. Christianity It was strategic on what they did. Listen to what I'm about to say. So, therefore, the choice of December 25th. All right, so let me run back again. Let me say what I just said. So in the early centuries of the Christian era, Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire, and the process of converting the population involved adapting some existing customs and celebrations to Christian beliefs. They adapted some existing customs and celebrations like festivals, right, to Christian beliefs. The choice of December the 25th for the celebration of the birth of Jesus may have been influenced by the desire, check this out, peep this, the desire to Christianize existing pagan festivals and provide a Christian alternative. Wow, it's different than when people say Christianity is celebrating on a pagan holiday. No. What the purpose of that is, now we are combating. We are celebrating on the same day so that people have an alternative to where they don't have to celebrate the sun god. Now they can celebrate the true and living God, of which they've heard about in scripture, where there is writings about thousands of years ago. So when you present this to people, people say, wow, there's no writings about the sun god. There's no writings about Saturn, right? But there's writings about this newborn baby called Jesus, to where the fact that he's going to save the world. So it was an influence tactic to remove people from serving a pagan god, to bring them and let them be Christianized through the festivals on December 25th that was to celebrate the life of Jesus. So the exact date of Jesus, as I told you, the birth is not specified in the Bible at all. No one knows exactly of the day. And therefore, early Christians did not initially celebrate it as a distinct festival. However, the earliest recorded celebration of Christ's birth on December 25th dates back to the 4th century in Rome. That is years ago. Yeah. So now, here's the cultural adaptation. As Christianity spread, it often absorbed and adapted local customs and traditions. The December 25th date may have been chosen to coincide with existing festivities, making it easier for pagans to transition to Christianity. So, if we're going to ask the question, what is it okay? Should Christians celebrate Christmas? Why not? Because what they set out, what these Christians did, these wasn't dumb Christians. These were Christians that was getting martyred, they were getting crucified, and they had to be very careful on who's a true believer and who not. You had to know certain things so that people could identify you as a true believer, because they were scared, because Romans was putting these undercover agents in place so that they can pick out who true believers were. But the Romans did not really have the understanding of Christianity, right? So therefore, they were being outwitted because the real Christians knew what they had to believe in. And over time, the celebration of Christmas became more elaborate, incorporating number of customs, local customs and traditions from different cultures. It started to bring everybody in. There was gift giving, feasting, decorating homes with the greenery. Basically, are just some examples that may have roots in both Christian and pagan traditions. And that I would agree with. It may have roots, so the pagan tradition, they decorated their house in greenery. Christian tradition started out adopting some of those traditions. Now, the tradition itself is nothing wrong with it. The source of the tradition is where the problem is. Right? So, it's not the problem, is the source. What are you sourcing from? What we did, the Bible says, become all things to all men so you may win them. You can use computers to win them. You can do things. You can, you get on the internet, go on Facebook, do things to win people. You use things of the world so that you can win people that is in the world. That's the purpose of it. It's not good for us to just be preaching to people in the church. And yet, when we leave the church, we don't want to say a peep about Jesus to anybody in the streets, on the bus, on the train, or at work. We want to keep everything very hush-hush. But the Bible is very clear. It says that, Jesus said, whenever you are ashamed to present me or ashamed of me in front of your people, I will be ashamed of you in front of my Father. So what does that tell you? That tells you that either you are a Christian, and a Christian is to amplify, it is to promote, and it is to magnify the name of Christ in your life. And that's what they did. Because look at this. Thousands of years later, when you think of December 25th, what do you think about? You think of Jesus Christ. You're not thinking about Saturn. You ain't thinking about the sun god. You ain't thinking about solstice. You're not thinking about any of that stuff. What pops up in your mind is Christmas. You think about Joseph, Mary, that baby Jesus in a manger, the three wise men, and that's what Christmas became. Because we came, we conquered, and we kept moving. That's what Christmas is about. So if you ask me the question, should Christians celebrate Christmas? My answer is yes, if you choose to. Now, if you choose not to celebrate Christmas, that's fine. But what I don't understand, when people get their, as they say, their panties in a bunch over a Christmas tree, and yet they're celebrating a birthday, which birthdays are not in the Bible, right? Celebrating a birthday, or they doing a turn up for the whole month. Or they're talking about, well, I don't know how you celebrate Christ's birthday, right? And yet you're sitting here dating. Dating is not said in the Bible. Betrothed is mentioned in the Bible, meaning that you get engaged. And while you engage, it is looked at as serious as being married. That's why we find that Joseph tried to do it very nonchalantly and under the covers to remove himself from Mary so that it wouldn't stay in her name. Right? So you get all bent out of shape over a Christmas tree, but you don't get bent out of shape because you're dating. Right? So, but who made your car? Who built your house? Do you know if they were atheists or not? But yet you drive a car, you don't know what believer made your car. But you get bent out of shape if somebody has a Christmas tree. People, I love Christians. But Christians, they baffle me. They confuse me. Because we begin to talk about stuff that we hear and repeat it and don't even know the meaning behind it. Now, a word is a word. So red means red, blue means blue. But then opinions that have not been peer-reviewed or fact-checked, and for you to repeat it doesn't make sense, right? So there are some things in history that I wasn't there, but there's enough evidence for me to believe it, right? There's enough evidence for me to believe that the England, that we became free and Independence Day came about because the settlers that were here fought against England. There's enough evidence for me to believe that there was a civil war at one point in time in this country, the North against the South, and the North won because there was enough scholar and enough tradition and enough writings to prove that it happened. I didn't have to be there to know that it happened. But you always have to take the fact and say, why am I repeating this information if I have no proof? Amen. But the proof that we see is that Christians was not being influenced by the satanic gods, the sun god and the Saturn god, but yet they did the influencing by infiltrating their festival day and pulling people to Christ. Now that is ministry to me. So therefore, on that note, I'm going to say Merry Christmas to you all, and to all a good night. God bless you. Have a Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.